My name's Ed Oldfield from devonlive.com, and we're here in Cathedral Green, Exeter, a year on from the fire at the Royal Clarence Hotel, which is right behind us. At the time, it was Friday, October the 28th, 2016, when a fire started in number 18 over to my right. The flames spread very quickly. There was a huge firefighting response. At its peak, there were 100 firefighters at work here, trying to bring the fire under control. It's caused a huge amount of damage to the buildings behind me and devastated the hotel as the weekend went on. That was a year ago, and a lot has happened since then. The site's been a lot of work going on. The site's been cleared now. There's been some archaeological work, and plans have been put in to rebuild the hotel and to restore the historic facade. I'm here with Dr. Todd Gray from the University of Exeter. He's a historian with a special interest in Exeter. And Todd, can you recall that day and the impact of it?
Yeah, I mean, it was a key moment, I think, in Exeter's history. And I came in to do some commentary on the fire about 10 o'clock in the morning. And I was here for the next 4 or 5 days. And the media interest, I think, went on for 12 days. And it was an odd moment because as a historian, you're spending a lot of time working quietly in an archive or a library on your documents. Much of what you do is a very personal thing. So suddenly all the work that you're doing, about the past comes into focus in the present. So it was an odd thing to see something which you had studied and was part of the background of your daily life as a historian suddenly disappear. And then you realize just how many tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people share an interest in a building which you know one way, but they know in a completely other. And when the building finally was destroyed, demolished the top 2 floors, they knocked it down and it thudded on the ground. And I could only liken it to the soil on a coffin when you bury a friend or a family member. And it just felt like 250 years of history of a hotel and 600 odd years as a building just finished. And to have a building last that long and be so iconic and all of a sudden just gone, it was a very shocking and a very sad moment.
Could you describe the historical importance of this site and the impact of what happened?
Well, it's hard for people who aren't from Exeter to understand because it's in the very heart of Exeter. I mean, there are thousands of people milling through today, and this is, nearly November. And, this is the Roman heart. It's an Anglo-Saxon churchyard, and it's built up by the Georgians as a hotel, and it just forms a backdrop to everyone's life. And if you come to Exeter, chances are you come here. And if you live in Exeter, you crisscross the city because we're a very small city that you don't have to drive from one end to the other. You shop where you are and walk around. So it's an iconic building to people who just visit and those of us who live here and work here. And I think that loss was just so sudden and unexpected. It has made people think twice about the place they live in.
A year on, what are your hopes for the future?
Very easy, very straightforward. What I think should happen, and what I think has already happened, is a rebirth or a reawakening in Exeter's old history. People are now looking afresh at these buildings, and they've got extraordinary stories to tell. I mean, the current building, which houses Waterston's, that was only pulled down in the 1960s, and it replaced a Victorian bank and a wonderful late medieval pair of buildings. And they were listed, but for some reason they were pulled down, demolished. To put up something which is, a friend described as a Canadian style of architecture, which means dull. And the Mansion House, which is the old Mitchellmore's building, we now know that was built in 1870 by a dentist who loved curiosities, and it was described as a French chateau style. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was an oddity even of its time. We've got an 18th century building further along, Tinley's on the corner. Most people don't realize it's medieval. You know, you sit in well, South Pizza Express, but you sit in the back, it's medieval. The front of the building is Victorian. So you've got the whole gamut right there in front of you. And on the other side, we've got a range of buildings on the high street end that are just extraordinary architectural treasures, full of the most wonderful fabric. The Exeter's earliest toilet seat, 400 years old, is in Laura Ashley. We've got Victorian wallpaper in an adjoining building, blocked up windows from the 1500s, Elizabethan wall paintings, wonderful fabric which is just sitting unsuspectingly on the top of High Street. And we go further along, one interesting building after another. But this is a part of Exeter which wasn't blitzed, on the whole wasn't redeveloped, and it's an island. It's a little island of wonderful architecture, whereas, you know, just a few hundred feet away, demolished by the Blitz. A few hundred yards the other way on South Street, again, completely ruined. So we've got a few buildings of great merit, extraordinary merit, right on our very noses. And yet, this was where we had our great fire. So what I'm hoping, and I think has already happened, is Exeter people are standing back and looking again at things which they thought they knew, but they're looking again and saying, "Crumbs, I never noticed such and such." And this appreciation of what we have, of what makes Exeter Exeter, is something we should cherish and we should treasure. And I want something positive to come out of the fire, and I think that would be a wonderful legacy for us to leave to the next generation.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so thank you, Dr. Todd Gray from Exeter University, who's been talking about the legacy of the Royal Clarence Hotel fire in Cathedral Yard in Exeter a year ago, October the 28th, 2016. So a year on, we've come back to the site just to look back over that year and also look forward to the future and the legacy for the city that is now being left behind.